Mike says, if LDL is okay, but may cause plaque if vessels are damaged by glucose as it tries to repair it, could a cerebral flow diverter aneurysm and high LDL cause plaque? Carnivore okay if flow diverter fit it. I don't actually think that LDL is part of this process at all, really. I don't think that I don't think that you need damage, right? But you damage your vessels with glucose, you can damage it with homocysteine, you can damage it with nicotine. It's sort of weird. I think the tobacco companies are up to their old tricks again, putting out all this research about how great nicotine is for you. Nicotine sucks. Nicotine is a drug. Nicotine causes direct damage to your body and your brain and your vasculature. It causes, it actually can damage the arterial lining of your vessels, and that starts the process for atherosclerosis, right, and peripheral vascular disease, and these sorts of things, right? So, not what you want. But it's more than just glucose. So, the question is, if LDL is okay, but may cause plaque if the vessels are damaged. I don't think that that's the case, and I don't think there's any evidence to show that. In fact, there is no evidence to show that. Higher levels of LDL do not correspond with higher levels of cardiovascular disease, and the correlation is not causation in any case. But the only randomized controlled trials that we have on the subject, and people go, oh, well, that's not a good step. They're the only ones we have. So you don't like it, do a better one, right? But they're the only ones we have. And the only ones we have show that in randomized controlled trials with thousands of patients, that when you reduce LDL and replace saturated fat with polyunsaturated, vegetable oils and seed oils, that more people die of heart attacks and strokes as a result. So this is just not something that we can actually even suggest that the cholesterol is part of this. In fact, there are studies looking at seed oils that have plant fats have sterols, which are the plant's version of cholesterol. We don't need the plant versions of things. We need the animal versions of things. And the plant versions of cholesterol will lower our cholesterol because it sends a signal to our liver that we're getting cholesterol in from our food, and so we don't need to make as much. Fine. But it's not actually cholesterol. We don't actually use it cholesterol. We can't use it properly as a building material and structural component. We can't use it to make our hormones or vitamin D, etc., which is what all our hormones, vitamin D, are made of, is cholesterol. And so it actually screws things up a lot. And also, macrophages really like cholesterol. They hang on to it tightly. All cells make cholesterol. And so they really like human cholesterol. They don't like plant sterols. And so they actually spit those out very readily. And so they've actually found in like AAA, on histology on AAAs, which in abdominal aortic aneurysm, that they actually found this stuff stuffed in all these plant sterols. And we also know that like trans fats, these things are very atherogenic, right? So these cause a lot of these plaques. These are fats that just our bodies just have no idea what to do with, because trans fats don't exist in nature, right? So that's something our bodies have never seen before. Our bodies don't know what the hell to do with it. And they end up getting stuffed into weird places that shouldn't really be there and cause problems like cardiovascular disease. And so that's what's happening. I don't think for a cold frozen second that our own cholesterol is doing that. LDL is just a carrier molecule. It carries cholesterol, it carries lipids, and it carries proteins. So does HDL. HDL just carries slightly less cholesterol. Very similar molecules. So just having more LDL molecules, why would that cause a problem? When you fast and you just stop eating for 5 days, your LDL will go up, right? Because you're running on your fat stores. It's a metabolic state change. You're running on your fat stores, and so you need to transport that fat, lipids and cholesterol, proteins, etc. You need to transport that around the body. So you need more of these things as part of fat adaptation, is getting more LDL, more HDL, right? Is because you need to transport this around the body. You start eating carbohydrates, that goes right down. You start exercising, it goes up, right? Because you need more energy. You're trying to mobilize things, right? So fasting regular periods of time, that's been shown to improve health in a number of different ways, right? Including heart disease risk and things like that. And so, but it raises your LDL. If LDL directly causes harm, what's going on, right? Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys. So again, it's just like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't pass the smell test. It was made up in the first place. You know, it wasn't a group of serious scientists who are like, ooh, we really think this is what's going on. It was the sugar companies in the first place, and probably the tobacco companies along with them, pushing this narrative and making up this story and paying off people like Ansel Keys and professors from Harvard and elsewhere to just bullshit and lie and make up studies and things like that. Ansel Keys was, did the 7 Nations study. That was a garbage study. He completely falsified all sorts of different data. You know, he had R value for his 7 nations. There were 22 nations he had complete data on. He just completely omitted those. And so he just picked the ones that fit that graph that said, ooh, more cholesterol, more heart disease. You know, the interesting thing there, if you just looked at sugar consumption as well, it had the exact same curve for those exact same countries. So it's called an R value. So your relative risk association for cholesterol was exactly the same as relative risk association with sugar consumption. And guess what Ansel Keys' take home was from that study and the rest of his work was, ooh, cholesterol could really be a problem. Eat sugar instead. What kind of asshole do you have to be to make that sort of statement? So this guy was a fraud, and I think that his entire life's work should be burned to the ground. I mean, the guy, you just can't trust a single word of it. Other people think that, you know, he was just ideologically driven and you know, really wanted the best, but just couldn't accept that this went against his life work. That happens too, but I think that it's more likely, in my mind, just being the cynical sort of person and that I am, that he was just a fraud through and through, because he was just paid from day one to just push this narrative, you know, and he had the data in front of him. I mean, he had the R value for sugar was exactly the same as the R value for cholesterol. And yet he recommended you just cut out fat and replace that with sugar, because sugar is an empty calorie. You know, you need these calories from somewhere, so just replace them with sugar. And he was being paid by the sugar companies. So I don't think that he was being honest by any stretch of the imagination. And then he actually worked on one of these large scale randomized controlled trials, called the Minnesota Coronary Experiment. Went on for 5 years. They looked at nearly 10,000 people that were institutionalized in psychiatric facilities or the prison systems, prison and jail systems, and they didn't even know it was a double-blinded study. So, you know, they just replaced like butter with margarine and animal fats with seed oils, and no one knew which group was which. And the group that had, you know, plant oils and margarines replaced for animal fats did indeed reduce their cholesterol because of the plant sterols, and more of them died of heart attacks and strokes as a result. So what are we trying to accomplish here? And as a result, Ansel Keys refused to publish the study and buried it. So I mean, this is malice aforethought. This guy knows what he's doing. So it's never been proven one way or the other that LDL is even associated with cardiovascular disease. Certainly has not been shown with randomized controlled trials. And so I just don't think we play into their game. I don't, well, if, or we assume, no, we don't assume a thing. Make them prove it. They have not proven it. It's been disproven a number of times. So I don't accept that, that position at all. And so, I don't think that we need to even entertain this whole what if scenario, because it's just, it's not likely to be the case. So carnivore diet is okay no matter what you do with so all of that scenario, LDL and this and that and all that. Carnivore is good. Carnivore is what your body's designed for. Your optimal nutrition for, carnivore diet for a lion is good under any and all circumstances. The grasses that cows and horses eat are optimal under any and all circumstances. So just the optimal nutrition for a species is always optimal for that species, always, right? And so I wouldn't worry about this sort of thing. And I don't worry about that sort of thing. You can watch my videos on the truth about cholesterol and heart disease. You can watch Dr. Paul Mason's video. He has multiple videos and lectures at medical conferences on cholesterol, saturated fat, and all these other sorts of things. There's books written on the subject. One's from Dr. Malcolm Kendrick called "The Clot Thickens," goes through all this sort of stuff and talks about his idea about what really causing it, and so on and so on and so on. So I just do not accept the premise that LDL has anything to do with cardiovascular disease, if in any way, shape, or form, apart from being protective against it. And prove me wrong. But right now, the evidence shows is entirely against that theory. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys. Daniela Tarantello, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. It's very kind of you. Thank you, Dr. Chaffee. Love your passions and contributions. I'm super inspired and grateful you're here in Australia. Started my carnivore journey 1 week ago. Well, that's fantastic. That's really great to hear that, Daniela. Thank you very much for sharing that. And good luck with that. The first couple of weeks are a bit of a transition period. Some people feel really good. I just felt great right away on it. But after 2 weeks, I really just, the improvements I saw in my health and my athletic performance just went through the roof. I just couldn't believe how good I felt. I felt better than I had in my whole life, except for that 5-year period in my early 20s when I was inadvertently doing a carnivore diet because I just refused to eat any and all plants because my professor of cancer biology told us how toxic they were and how carcinogenic they were. When you have a professor of cancer biology tell you that he doesn't eat any sort of plants, vegetables, or fruits, grains, because of how carcinogenic they are, that sticks with you. At least it stuck with me anyway. So, now I'm doing this and I just feel amazing. So, hopefully you do as well. And in the coming weeks, I'm sure you'll feel better than you have in a very long time. So good luck with that. And thank you very much for thinking about it and being open-minded enough to give something new a try. Ground Rush Labs, thank you very much for the super chat. Question, Doc, does Lion Diet help with high blood pressure and Raynaud's? So actually, if you roll back, one of the first questions I answered was actually about high blood pressure. The short answer is yes, it can definitely help with a lot of causes of high blood pressure. There are other causes, but many of them are high insulin, high homocysteine, and sometimes salt, but not always. But I have seen that even when people have corrected everything else, salt can still be an issue. So just be aware. Most people are not salt sensitive. Some people are. So you need to keep that in mind as well. So getting your insulin down getting your homocysteine down by getting your B12 up, etc. That can all help blood pressure over time. You need to be very careful because if your blood pressure goes too low, you can start getting dizzy and lightheaded, and that's a risk for falls. And so you need to be able to work with your doctor to reduce your dose as needed, especially if you're standing up and you're sort of getting lightheaded often. Check your blood pressure. It's probably because you're on too much medication at that point. But do go back to the beginning of this video. I go into a lot more detail about that, but that's the gist of it anyway. Annabelle, the Happy Carnivore, says, I lose weight every time I eat fat trimmings. That's really good. A lot of people find that as well. When you're eating properly, it stimulates your metabolism and stimulates your body to just actually use its resources properly. And people, lose quite a lot of weight. And some people actually get through stalls by increasing the amount of fat that they're eating, which seems counterintuitive. But I mean, there's even books on this. There's a book in the 1950s from a doctor. It was called Eat Fat to Get Thin. And it was all about this. Saying actually, you need to eat these things. You need to eat your proper diet, and by doing that, you'll actually stimulate fat loss. So glad to hear that you're finding those same results. Having autoimmune issues, I don't have any specific health issues that I have to deal with. I just feel better in general, so I just naturally gravitate there anyway. But yeah, if you find that you're doing better with a bit of other things mixed in, that could be a reason why. And either way, if that's where you feel the best, then do that.